Hey, I'm Osman Faruqi, and this is The Drop, a weekly culture show from the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, where we dive into the world of pop culture and entertainment. Me with Thomas Mitchell and Mel Kembry. How you doing, gang? What's up?
We're doing good. Thomas and I have spent the morning pouring through a book that's just arrived at my desk, for which we sent you a few excerpts as well, Oz.
Yeah, this was weird. You refused to explain the context of this. You sent me some pages of what appeared to be people describing their sexual fantasies, and then underneath it was like their nationality, a figure, which I think is what their annual salary, and their star sign.
Yeah, so this is Gillian Anderson of television and film fame has collected, for a new book called Want, a lot of fantasies. It's a very thick book, and I actually didn't even notice until Thomas pointed out that the cover of it had been personalised for me. So, we've had a lot of fun with that this morning.
It has been, I mean, it's, of all the ways to write a book, collecting someone else's letters and putting them together is the easiest way to do it. So props to Gillian.
So did she solicit, did she do a call out or something?
I guess she set up like a Gmail, I don't know. But like she writes like an introduction and she puts her own fantasy in, but it's anonymous, so you don't know which one it is. But
so her fantasy's in there, but you don't know which one it is.
Correct. But like, I mean, let's be honest, huge missed op not calling this the Sex Files.
Yeah.
I mean,
very
what?
true.
But yeah, so she can do it all. People, I mean, I guess since sex education, she's, and I don't know if you guys follow her on Instagram, but she's very sex positive. So I'm sure the book will do well.
She loves books as well, right? She's always sharing books on her Instagram.
True. I actually think erotica is making a comeback. I mean, I haven't really thought this through, but I think, how there's been a very sex toy positive movement of late and all the influencers talking about the sex toys and launching brands. And,
you don't need to tell us twice.
I think I've seen a few posts in Facebook groups and the like about women searching for erotic fiction to read purely for the purpose of...
So posts in Facebook groups? What sort of Facebook groups are you in?
I am addicted to Life Uncut.
Are you joking?
I can't believe you're shouting out this podcast.
Okay, no.
Is this a joke?
Mel talks about it all the time.
I'm addicted to the Facebook group because the voyeurism I get and the way that these kind of highfalutin feminist feminist concepts play out in Facebook, the disputes, the discussions, is it a red flag? Are you being it's incredible. I think it's it's social anthropology for me.
Okay, I'm flummoxed. I'm flabbergasted right now. Do you listen to Life Uncut regularly?
No. I'm just about...
You just consume it through the Facebook group.
Yeah. I'm just about seeing people crowdsource information for their problems.
That's interesting. I mean, look, I think you're probably right about the yearning for erotica. We've discussed many times on this podcast the crisis that young women are in society right now.
The horny crisis.
The flip side of that, right?
Yeah, so maybe I'll write this piece, but maybe want is kind of the outcome of that.
Well, I think that what we should really do, the natural evolution of this chat, is to obviously start a drop Facebook page, and then our fans can talk about these things on the page, and they can
share their fantasies,
exactly,
et cetera.
And they can be anonymous or not anonymous, and I'll compile them and release it under the.
And we can profit off their ideas.
Yeah, obviously, the book will be called The Sex Files. Now that I've trademarked that,
perfect.
Hey, did either of you guys make it to Charlie XCX's birthday party in LA over the weekend?
Yes, I did. I was actually I was at Moorfield Bowling Club in Rockdale in Sydney South, but after that, I flew over the 14 hours to LA. And partied with Lord and the rest of the Brat Pack. It was great. It was loose, and it was everything you imagined. Sadly, Mel couldn't make it.
No, I'm kind of getting a bit intimidated by the Brat Pack. There's starting to be a bit of an aura of cool girls, it girls, we're in
the Taylor
and
Swift
you're
sort of
out.
it girl gang.
Yeah, which, I mean, obviously I love girl power, but there's something, I don't know, it's starting to make me a bit intimidated, and I don't know, I don't think I would get the invite, but also I don't know if it's my kind of scene. Also, something about them all playing Charlie XCX's songs all night feels very odd to me.
Yeah, I wondered about this. I had a friend who went to this party and I didn't really clock what was going on. They were posting Instagram videos and I was like, oh, cool. Charlie's hanging out with Lord or whatever, and didn't really think too much about it. I think it was maybe Friday or Saturday, our time. It wasn't paying a lot of attention. And then the next day, it's the most viral videos ever. And I'm like, oh shit, I kind of missed a trick on that one. Probably should have screen recorded it and sent it around. But I think I found that also a bit odd that this was sort of seemed like this kind of intimate party with all of Charlie's cool friends, but was clearly designed to be consumed on social media. My intel is that there was like multiple like layers to this party. There was this earlier in the evening event with paparazzi and others at this bar in LA, I think near Los Feliz or Silver Lake, something like that. And that was all consumed. And then it sort of kicked on into a more private sort of situation, which wasn't just them singing their own songs. Because even though it was kind of cute, I guess, I felt a bit weird to just be like, hey, Billy, let's sing our song together now.
And like, because they were up on a little stage together, were they? And it just reminded me of that. You know, like when you're younger and you would go clubbing and there'd always be like, the hot people would be on the stage and then the more ugly people would be down the bottom and they're kind of wanting to get up there. Yeah. And it's like space is tight and you're waiting to see like if there's a natural spot for you to jump up. And sometimes and like the action of getting from the ground to the stage is really awkward. And then if the people on the stage are really attractive, you're like, well, I can't get in. That's exactly what it felt like. Having been in that position before.
Thomas, you and I have actually been in this position together. I don't know if you remember this. One of our Melbourne nights when you visited, we went to the old bar and there was a little stage there. Yeah. And there was like, damn, we were jumping up there. We were the hot people.
I was going to say, we crushed it.
Why did you want to be on the stage?
That's just where the night led us. And
before we get into the guts of the episode, one thing I just wanted to mention briefly. We've talked a fair bit on this podcast. We had a whole episode, in fact, about the crisis in Australian music and the lack of chart success a lot of Australian acts were having. I just wanted to mention quickly in that realm, there's been a big win for Australian music in the past week. Lime Cordiale have actually scored the first Australian #1 album on the ARIA charts this year. They're a Sydney band. Their record is called Enough of the Sweet Talk. It's actually the first #1 Australian #1 since Troye Sivan in October last year. This is a good result for them, and it's a good sign that Australian music is still beating its heart somewhere. I got to say, you know, no disrespect to the band. I'm not like a big Lime Cordiale fan, but I'm happy for them that this album went to #1. It seems like they put a lot of work into it. They were doing a lot of live streams and events and gigs, and I certainly was getting a lot of PR marketing emails about this band, so everyone was working overtime. ARIA is certainly celebrating it. I think they're very conscious of the criticism that the charts are under from people like us, and they're like, look guys, we did it. Lime Cordiale went #1. Everything in Australian music is okay. I'm not sure I'm willing to say the crisis is over, but I think given that we talked about sort of the atmosphere and some of the negatives, it was fair to mention this little thing that happened as well.
Yeah, I would not have seen them going to #1, but good on them. And they have, as you mentioned, I've seen like their social media campaign and the like has been pretty extensive. So I'm glad it's paid off.
Yeah, with a little help from Stringer Bell. So getting...
That's true. Yeah, Idris Elba has collaborated with them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very funny how Idris Elba just like does that, and we're all just like, oh, what a fun hobby for him.
It was a bit weird when he came. He was living in Australia for a bit, and then someone in music land was like, oh, he's collaborating with an Australian band. You'll never believe who it is. And I'm like, well, this is a guy who's like been part of like the jungle house scene in the UK. And I was like, you know, maybe, and they were like, oh, they're recording in Western Sydney. I thought maybe he's doing like some intros for a drill group. And they're like, no, it's a Lime Cordiale. I was like, okay.
You're like, you're right. I didn't see it coming.
Did not see that coming. All right, today on the show, we are in the middle of the biggest television event, comes around every 4 years. It is the Olympics. All three of us are big fans of sport, the Olympics in particular. We love the athleticism, the narratives, the heartache, even the nationalism that it evokes in three otherwise quite cynical people. I'm really excited to share our favorite moments and characters of the Paris Games so far. There's also, back in the land of pop culture, been some very big blockbuster movies we haven't had the chance to chat about yet. Two in particular, Twisters and Deadpool and Wolverine. Are they any good? What do they tell us about the state of cinema and culture? You'll find out. First, though, I wanted to talk to you guys about some exciting news in the land of television. So on Monday, the second season of House of the Dragon wrapped up. It's a very, very, very popular show that none of us are watching, which seems like a problem considering the jobs that we do and what we talk about on this podcast every week. But more importantly, HBO on Monday dropped a teaser trailer highlighting some of their next big shows. And a few of them got me very excited. I thought it'd be fun to whip through, get the folks hyped up for what is coming out on HBO over the next 12 months. The first thing they dropped was yet another kind of Game of Thrones related spin-off. It's a show called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. It's apparently set in between the timelines of House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. My guess is you guys have no interest in this one either.
Yeah, that definitely didn't get me like excited to become a Game of Thrones fan.
Yeah, probably not first on my must-watch list.
No.
We also saw some footage from the second season of The Last of Us, which cleaned up at the Emmys in the drama category this year. I don't think we talk much about this show. Are you guys into The Last of Us stuff at all?
Yeah, I really liked it. I also played the video game, and so like I was bedded in for it. And I thought actually in this like kind of sizzle reel that HBO put out, that The Last of Us got the most love. I thought that obviously that's like where HBO is like hedging their bets. It's such a big, kind of like IP for them. Yeah, I thought it looked very good. A single tear going down Pedro Pascal's face. Like, fucking sign me up.
Yeah, I like The Last of Us. I thought it lost its way a bit in the first season, but Pedro Pascal, I'm here for him.
And speaking of IP, there are a couple of big IP spin-offs. There's The Penguin, which is the Batman-related series starring Colin Farrell. I'm kind of in the bag for this one. I'm excited.
Me too.
Thomas, you and I were talking about these Matt Reeves Batman films, and Colin Farrell was in that, and they were really good. The first one, The Batman, with Robert Pattinson, was really good. I'm excited for The Penguin.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that. That's a great character, and Colin Farrell, I love. I thought that like he didn't get as much to do in the movie. I think, is it John Turturro? He kind of stole that film.
Yeah, there was kind of a lot of bad guys in that movie. You didn't really get a sense of what the Penguin was going to be like in this universe.
Yeah, but this has been flagged for ages, and I'm like super, super keen for that. And we love a bit of prosthetic.
Mel, any vibes on Colin Farrell as the Penguin?
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I'll give it a crack. I guess you can see excitement levels aren't super high, but if done well, I'm open to it.
No, you're allowed. I bet your excitement levels are off the chart for Dune Prophecy, the prequel about the Bene Gesserit sisterhood in the Dune universe. Come on, let's go.
The trailer was only 1:30, and I fast forwarded through that bit.
How much more Dune do you want, Osman?
No, I'm not really that excited about this. They actually released a trailer, I think, a few months ago, and it didn't really work. Like, the Dune films are great because Denis Villeneuve...
We'll come back in 5 minutes.
What happened?
Just I could hear you. I could feel you geeing up for a Dune chat.
The Dune films are good because Denis Villeneuve knows how to make great movies, and there are some great stars in them. When you remove both of those things and it's just some sort of like complicated sci-fi storyline, I don't feel that excited about it. But happy to be proven wrong. Hopefully it's good.
Will there be sandworms?
Great question. Yeah. Does that make you more or less excited?
More. They were like the highlight for me of the Dune film.
Will it be like a bit of a Mandalorian type thing where it like, just ends up being a disappointing addition to the film world?
I think that's quite likely.
Yeah.
I think that's quite likely. Yeah. I mean, this is this era that HBO is in with the Warner Brothers Discovery merger. Everything is being like mined for every potential prequel, sequel, behind the scenes TV thing you could do. I think that the lesson from all the Star Wars and Marvel shows is that has a pretty short shelf life. People aren't into it. It's sort of weird to see HBO getting into it. Ultimately, I just hope that things that are being made are good. I hope they're good. I remain skeptical about Dune Prophecy. But one that I think you guys will be very excited about. We got our first glimpse of The White Lotus Season 3. It's set in Thailand. They've been filming in Bangkok, Phuket, Koh Samui. What is the hype meter like for you guys on White Lotus Season 3?
Now we're talking.
The hype meter is high, but glimpse really is exactly how
yeah.
it
It's like the length of it is the gap between the two runners in the 100-meter sprint.
Yeah,
it's very short.
Exactly.
You like that? You like how I linked all those things?
I did. I was going to tee you up with one, but now you sorted it yourself. But yeah, it was a long shot of like a pool in Thailand and someone being like, what happens in Thailand stays in Thailand. And we saw Natasha Rothwell's character.
Yeah, that's a big reveal.
No, we knew that.
Oh, did we?
Yeah,
okay.
we did know that. It's a big reveal for you.
Yeah.
Mel was shocked. I think, I don't know. I'm starting to feel a little bit nervous about White Lotus Season 3 based on nothing other than just it's really going to be a long time by the time it arrives, by the time we check into the White Lotus once more. And I don't know, the mix of casting doesn't get me as excited. We've got Michelle Monaghan, Parker Posey, Patrick Schwarzenegger, Jason Isaacs, Walton Goggins is cool. But I don't know, something about all of the noise around it has made me apprehensive.
I mean, we talked about this when we were talking about the Bear season 3. Season 3s have this problem, right? Season 1, great show, out of nowhere. Season 2, you've managed to live up to expectations. Season 3, can you do it again? It's tricky. I think there's a lot of space for the White Lotus to like let people down with the expectations on it. I'm hopeful. I think Mike White has proven his ability to write good and smart television. I'm more curious about, like, in the universe of the White Lotus, how are these hotel chains still surviving? Like, are they not, like, people keep being massacred whenever they check in? Or is there not a kind of royal commission into what is going on with the White Lotus hotel chain?
That could be season 3. Maybe it's going to be a courtroom drama.
Well, I kind of like, because I think when the second season finished, he spoke about how that season was predominantly about sex. The first one was about money, and he thought this one was going to be about Eastern religion and spirituality, which I think is a pretty ripe area for satire and exploration. I think it looks great. There was a bit of Muay Thai or boxing in the clip. Did you notice that? And then also, it looked very hot, and I really like shows where, like, the heat rises and as the tension does as well. I know that's a niche area, but yeah.
I'm lucky I got my Thailand trip in last year because I feel like this is going to send the interest in traveling to Thailand off the chart. So strong recommend to get in before the show comes out, I think.
I mean, I think people have always gone to Thailand, haven't they?
No, but there is a White Lotus effect.
There's a White Lotus effect. People have always gone to Hawaii and Sicily, but there's, like, search interest and prices have increased astronomically after these shows are released. All right, let's talk about the Olympics. I want to talk about our favorite moments, the funniest things you've seen, how you feel these games are ranking amongst previous Olympiads. But I want to ask first, how locked in are you? Like, what is your viewing experience been like for the last couple of weeks? Are you watching every day? Are you just doing the highlights? Are you flicking through all the different channels on Stan? On Stan, you can actually watch, like, the broadcast from different countries. You can watch how Indians and French people are watching it. What are you guys doing? What's your Olympic consumption habit like?
It's all I'm watching at the moment. When I come home, it goes on in the background, and then I'm putting on the highlights in the morning. The timing is a bit hard. I'm really struggling with that. Can't kind of catch everything live, so you kind of miss out on the excitement. But yes, I'm flipping between them all. I quite like going to the 9 main broadcast as well, just to see what they're scattering through. But then if I'm particularly interested in something, I'll head across to Stan and the all sports section.
Yeah, right. Is that because you get a lot of James Bracey on 9 now, or?
He's a great broadcaster. He really steals the show.
I would say I'm pretty locked in. It's also kind of coincides, I think, with the pretty, like, there's not a lot on TV right now. It's kind of good that you can just watch the Olympics, and I'm mainly watching through the Stan app. It does make it hard. Like I've talked about this before with you. I derive a lot of my enjoyment of, like, watching sport, watching it live, and having so much stuff on delay, or especially, like, at our nighttime, you don't get heaps of, like, gold medal. Like, the finals aren't often at that time so early in Paris, so that's been kind of tricky. But I think, like, it's still basically all I've been watching. And as is the case with most Olympics, I find myself, like, once the swimming's over, like, really getting into the more niche sports. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, it's been it's been the Olympic experience I was after, I would say.
Do you have a favorite kind of niche sport that you've stumbled onto or that you're enjoying watching in the late hours?
Yeah, we were talking about the 3-on-3 basketball. I think that's really odd to watch. And I've watched a lot of the pommel horse.
The 3-on-3 basketball was very confusing to me. But
it's a
like
wacky sport. How is there real basketball and then also this fake version of basketball?
And who are they? Like, they're not NBA players.
I know, but and how do they get into it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, countries that like the Netherlands is really good in it. I've never seen, like, the Dutch be involved in, like, the NBA or anything.
Yeah.
And I quite like, I have got into the canoe
slalom.
Thank you.
Clearly.
The Fox Sisters? You're into the Fox Sisters?
Well,
or they kayakers, I guess.
I'm into the one that Naomi just won. I like the drop. Yeah, I like the intensity where they kind of plummet out of that thing down into the rapids. And actually, Thomas and I were talking this morning about whether I could just take my canoe, which I don't have yet, to the regatta here and, like, have a crack at it. Yeah.
Well, we were told by our esteemed sports reporter, Vince Rigari, that the Fox family, the mother is French, and they were about to move back to France in the year 2000, and they decided to stay in Sydney because the big centre was built in Penrith. And then they obviously started training, and then bang, 2 Olympians into one family.
And the mother is French. She was an Olympic canoer or kayaker for France, and the dad was a British canoer or kayak, whichever one they do.
Yeah.
So the second generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they basically couldn't lose. But yeah, it's been very fun. Not a great, in the last 24 hours, both the Boomers and the Greek national team lost in basketball. So I feel doubly devastated.
Yeah, that Greek loss to Germany was tough.
And
Again, when did Germans start playing basketball?
Yeah, but they're really
got a
good. They won
team,
the last
yeah.
World Championship, apparently.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah.
So
So, yeah, they didn't come out of nowhere. But then, and the Boomers obviously had a devastating loss to Serbia. It's all like
the worst named team in history, do you reckon?
Yeah.
The Boomers?
I don't know, the Gillaroos, the female Australian rugby league team's pretty bad.
Oof. Yeah, it's not
Though
good.
we have been talking because I am considering getting an Olympic rings tattoo. And
Wow. Okay.
This is actually
You've got
quite
Olympic
funny.
fever.
not actually,
You're
but
sweating out that Olympic fever.
but obviously then people would think I'm an athlete. And so
Because you only get them if you be at the Olympics. So
well,
it's actually
that's not a rule, is
no,
it?
but that's what's so. I'm in support of this decision
Yeah.
because you would really put people in two minds.
But then people would have to be like, what sport did you compete in?
What sport do you reckon people would assume you entered
Well, this
if
is...
you had an Olympic ring? I've got an obvious answer to this.
Thomas suggested that I could probably get away with skateboarding, which I don't really know.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, just physically though.
I was going to say equestrian.
Equestrian, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Midnight Shadow
yeah.
or whatever that... Or Shadow
Well,
Man,
I've got a
that's
related
that.
question for you
Okay.
guys on this one. I'm springing this one on you, so you've not been prepared for this. If you had 12 months to prepare to try to qualify for an Olympic sport, which one do you think you'd have the best chance of making it in?
I find it offensive that you say I'm not prepared for this, as if I don't fucking have this conversation with myself every single day. Well, look, there's a few answers I could give you. I think I'm pretty close to being able to compete at football anyway, so we'll take that off the table, like for the Ollie Roos.
Okay.
So that
I mean, you're too old.
no,
to
but
be
then
an
you get
Olympic
three
or-
overage players.
Okay. All right. So you think you could be? You think you're one of the three best football players in Australia?
I think I'm in the mix. I should, I should be in the chat. No, I've had this conversation a lot with people in the office. I reckon that the best chance sport that most of us as non-athletes could have, like in terms of what the skill level is and how quickly you could get to a level that you could probably, at least, let's say the parameters are you can compete without making an absolute fool of yourself, beach volleyball.
I think, Thomas has flagged this argument, and I think it's quite disrespectful to the sport of volleyball.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, firstly, you got to have great dexterity in the sand.
You have to be very
and secondly, you've
tall.
got to be great reactions.
Yeah.
You've got to be tall. You've got to know the
Okay,
tricks.
but like if we accept that all answers are going to be like kind of disrespectful, like they're all going to be really hard sports. I'm just saying I think that's the one that most
that's fair. That's fair.
normal people could.
And if you had 12 months to do it, you could probably get pretty good.
yeah, like because I mean, like I couldn't run fucking 10 flat in 12 months in 100 meters.
I reckon I'm 100% table tennis.
No way!
I'm
No
absolutely getting
way.
into table tennis. I reckon I'd be top 100 in the country.
Have you watched-
for it? I
have you-
have a lot of it, and I think I think that's the sport for me.
I think if we're being serious, I reckon beach volleyball is actually a good answer.
I've got a better one than both of you. It's sort of in the middle, in fact, of both of these sports.
Handball.
What do you get when you combine beach volleyball and table tennis? Badminton.
Oh, I love badminton. Yeah, I considered that as my other. I
Yeah,
like
because I played a bit of badminton growing up, and I really liked it. And also, if you think about it, you gotta have a bit of stamina, but the courts aren't that big. You're not going to get exhausted, and it's kind of just like flicks of the wrist and like leans in. It feels like if I just played badminton, if I took a year off work and just played badminton every day, I would be in the Olympics. Like, I do think that would happen.
I like that the racket is so light for badminton.
I think we're missing a very obvious thing here is if the three of us took a year off, we could go in 3-on-3 basketball.
Whoa.
That would be
Good
fun.
stuff.
So, like, anyway, there's
I like that.
watch out, LA.
And so where do you guys reckon... Look, I think the obvious answer is the Sydney 2000 Olympics are like the greatest Olympics of all time.
After,
right?
obviously, Athens 2004.
Athens 1896 was a good one. How are you guys finding the general vibe about Paris? So we talked about the time zone. Like you guys, it's kind of all I'm watching. I kind of come home from work and cook dinner, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing a Industry season 2 rewatch in advance of season 3, but that's just been put on the back burner. I'm just like, what is on right now? I've been watching like the show jumping, the slalom stuff, the skateboarding. It's all so fun, and I'm like, it's only on for a few more days, so I may as well just watch this. Time zones make it tough. There's some amazing kind of stories and wins, but how do you guys think the Paris Games compare to, Tokyo, the COVID Games? Where do you feel the rankings are?
I think Paris is fantastic. Particularly Tokyo was a very weird Olympic Games without much of an audience at any of the events. I like the vibe in Paris. I love that they're making great use of the city in all of their things, like the marathon's going right through it, the cycling, all of that. Beach.
They're all getting E. coli from swimming in the Seine.
You gotta take that. The volleyball is under the Eiffel Tower. And I loved
the Tour Eiffel.
The Olympic opening ceremony. I thought they did a great job. I thought that was very fun. I'm glad it wasn't in like a stadium.
Yeah, I like the use of like European electronic music.
Yeah.
Like just throughout. They're just piping it in through the stadium whenever there's athletic heats. That is a fun thing that they've done, these games.
My parents-in-law are still talking about the opening ceremony in the family WhatsApp, just still absolutely up in arms.
Over that, the thing with the guy
and the
that
Last
everyone thought was the Last
and-
Supper.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I was like, oh, didn't we stop talking about it like a week ago? But
How did they feel about the boats? Because people were very upset too that the athletes...
I didn't like the boats, actually, I got to say.
I didn't mind that. I think generally, like, the Paris Games has been pretty good. Like, I do think it is, even though it's like, yeah, it's great to have crowds and stuff. In my opinion, time zone does make a big difference. So we had like Beijing and Tokyo, and they're like very friendly time zones. And like, I actually really enjoyed the Tokyo Games because like, obviously it was the weird COVID thing, but it was good to have like a collective experience that we could all like lock in on. And yeah, it was good to be able to watch like actual finals at good times with your friends and stuff. Whereas this, like, you know, it's like either you're up really late or up early in the morning, like watching, you know, the stand recap of what happened. So I don't know. It's kind of like, it's felt like a funny games to me, but I do think it's also, as these things tend to do anyway, it's produced a lot of great, like, I've enjoyed the content around the games outside of the sport too.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that because there's been some athletes, some celebs who've made their presence really felt at these games. The kind of chat out of the village is always really funny to me. Apparently, a whole bunch of athletes have just like left the village and are staying in their own accommodation. There is no air conditioning in the village, which seems crazy. Like, I know that we're all trying to save the environment or whatever, but like, you're doing the Olympic Games, like that's out the window. Like, thousands of athletes, you're flying horses in from all over the world. Like, get rid of any idea that this is going to be sustainable and just let these athletes have aircon in summer in Paris. That's crazy.
Are they in old? I actually haven't. I'm not so across this scandal, but are they in old buildings? Is that why that they're in kind of stately?
I think
places?
they built it. I just think they're trying to like reduce energy use, essentially. And some of the food, apparently they're running out of like protein, which seems like a mistake because these are athletes and that's basically all they eat.
Yeah, but someone had to like cater Gina Reinhardt's cruise for the gold medal winners, so that's where all the protein has gone. I found that a very odd thing to do. Like, I don't know, for everyone that is there that didn't win a medal, it's an Australian. Wouldn't you be like, fuck these guys on the winners' cruise?
Yeah, Reinhardt's involvement in Australian swimming is crazy. She's like basically owns it now. I think she's
it's big time sports washing.
Donated a lot, and she has very strong views about how. I think she wanted Dawn Fraser on the board. She really loves Dawn Fraser. And yeah, I agree. It's sort of odd to be like, I'm going to take all the people who won on this cruise, the ones who lost, like, sorry, go eat your salads in your hot Olympic village.
as your salad wilts in front of you. I think generally there has been some great storylines to come out of the games. Probably the most lovable figure is Yusuf Dikic, the Turkish 51-year-old shooter who looks so much like a maths teacher of ours that we had at school, Melanie Kembury. He's been amazing. Just like, and like the fact that and then the South Korean Kim Ye-ji, like the two most popular stars are these kind of relaxed, casual shooters. I think is very funny.
And then wasn't there the Swedish guy who won the pole vote, like imitated the Turkish dude?
Yeah,
that was cool.
Did the shooting stance. Because it's just good when like it's such an internet thing to be like, we love this person who's just regular like us and now he won a silver medal.
We got some categories that we're going to talk about, which is going to be real fun to share some of our highlights and favorite moments from these games so far. First one, the obvious one, the best sporting moment to come out of these games. Mel, what did you choose?
Look, it was an early one. Cross-country mountain biking, which also I think I want to get into.
Sick sport.
Have you
really,
did you watch
really
it?
impressive. Yeah.
I want to like go off those jumps and down. There was like this rock fountain and amazing sport. Think I might get into it. English rider Tom Pidcock. He was expected to win and was well in front, and then maybe just before halfway through, he got a puncture in his wheel, and then there was a very kind of haphazard wheel changeover. He was 40 seconds behind, which is quite significant. And then at the very end, he managed to kind of duck in front of his of a French man, Victor Koretsky, and win. And I just thought he just slow and steadied and made his way back and won the day.
Great shot. And that was a great sport that you just don't see other than the Olympics.
Yeah, like I feel like they're often squirreled away in kind of national parks. Like I don't know any mountain bikers. Yet.
Thomas, what's your favourite sporting moment so far?
My favourite sporting moment, I reckon, is probably the 100-metre sprint. Obviously, the world was watching. But I think because I watched Sprint, the Netflix series about
a lot of people are saying this. They got really hyped because of that series.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. It's the Drive to Survive effect. Like you suddenly care about F1 results because you've watched the show. And if you watch Sprint, like the second episode is dedicated to Noah Lyles. It's like the full Noah Lyles show. He's so, like such a showman, talks the talk and all that. And so like because I had watched all the journey of him and the other guys getting to this race, I was like so locked in. And then of course, like the insane finish that it was, like the 1,000th of a second. And I feel like, that often happens in sprinting, like, and you hear it and you're like, oh, cool, it's always going to be close. But like really reading about, like the way in which the finish is calculated and how close it really was, like the difference between him and the guy from Jamaica, like it was an amazing kind of end to that storyline. And that's the big race I think that lots of people always watch, like the male 100 meters and the female 100 meter sprint, and like both delivered like pretty great ends to the story.
Can I have a hot take out of the athletics? But now I've also seen it in bouldering, in swimming. The false start rules, I think, are cruel.
They're brutal. And seeing so many athletes disqualified because they just moved a little bit too early and then they give them the red card and they're out straight away. It's quite heartbreaking.
Yeah, 4 years of your life and you're like, I flinched. But I guess if everyone got one false start, that would really fuck the race up. Because
yeah, I know, but everyone else gets to go and repechage and like these guys, why don't they get a second chance?
Talk us through repechage.
That was a word I did not know about 3 weeks ago, by
My
the way.
God, I think about it all the time. I mean, my understanding of it is essentially if you don't qualify through your heat, and this is because certain heats are faster than others, you get a second chance. And then if you win number one in that, you get to go through to the quarterfinals. Otherwise, it's based on time. But don't you think we should have repechage in more areas of life? Yeah, just a second
Yeah,
crack.
like taking a mulligan. Let's just do it again. There was one funny a US hurdler, Freddie Crittenden, I think is his name, who I was watching, who just like slow walked the hurdles. He was doing these tiny little steps, and I didn't understand what was going on. And then he basically was like, "Look, I wasn't feeling fit. I'm like, I may as well just go with repechage where I can be the fastest among the losers than giving it all amongst all these people." I'm like, I don't know, that's the point of it, but respect for gaming the system.
Yeah, but then he had to race twice rather than just
but he didn't really.
once.
He
wasn't really racing the
first time.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit rude.
My favourite sporting moment, maybe this is a bit of recency bias, but Arissa True, the 14-year-old from Cairns who won gold for Australia in the skateboarding. I was a bit sceptical of like skateboarding as a Olympic sport, but it's really fun to watch. I don't really understand why all the women are like 14 and all the men are 45. I don't know, it's something to do with men. Maybe there's more of a career in skateboarding, whereas women, there isn't maybe. And so they have to get jobs and they have to tap out when they grow up. But it's very odd watching that huge difference. But the music is awesome. They just like blast hip hop and these kids do sick tricks. And it makes me think of Tony Hawk, Pro Skater. I just keep expecting to see this number in the corner go up as they are ollieing and grinding and stuff. It's really fun. And I'm really stoked for her.
I don't know, like, I don't want to diss a gold medal winner, but like 14 is just too young to be at the Olympics, I reckon.
Well, she's become the youngest gold medalist for Australia, but there was a 14-year-old gold medalist for Australia. She was part of Dawn Fraser's relay team in like whenever Dawn Fraser.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, it's just like maybe there should be a limit of 16, I reckon. Like 14 just feels like a bit too young to be like competing at the Olympics.
What is your concern?
Yeah, what are you worried about?
I don't know, like, it makes me feel bad about what I was doing at 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
which was playing Tony Hawk, basically, and like causing different bits of American Pie. But like, I think it just feels like it's just not. She is so young, and like she's got like so many more Olympics ahead of her now. I don't know. It just seems like
It's like a welfare thing?
kind of.
It does feel weird that there is this one sport which just children are competing in. It's like a Dickensian now to the skateboarding where like hungry 13-year-olds will compete against each other in quite a dangerous event.
Yeah, and then you do have that weird thing where the men are really old, and like I'm like, is this like a weird? Is Drake in charge of this fucking thing? Like, what's going on?
All right, let's move on to our next category. Favorite best celeb moment. Thomas, you can go first.
Yeah, there's been some good like star spotting. I think very much I'm in favor of the Flavor Fave momentum.
Ooh,
He's been
okay.
basically at the women's water polo supporting the US women's team, but he's got like he's just got big like supportive aunt energy. He's at every game. Like I'm pretty sure he's taking oranges and stuff for halftime. Like he's so it's not like he's there doing the like, yeah, great photo op, I'm here, like a lot of them are doing. He's like at every game. And like,
do we know why Flavor Flav is so?
I think he's
like
he like basically I think he befriended one of them at the last Olympics, and then they were like, we don't have much money, and he's like kind of become he's like brought money into the system for them. He's like
so like the Gina Reinhardt of the US water polo.
Exactly, yeah, and he's got a whole bunch of mining stuff and going on there. But yeah, like I thought that's really cool. And Flavor Flav is like a weird celebrity that he's still got the big clock and stuff.
Does he still wear the clock out?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, how do people know who he is?
True.
What about you, Osman?
Well, mine is one where it was just a bit of a brief photo op, but it was such a funny combo. It was Tom Cruise and Greta Gerwig watching Simone Biles at the athletics. I think Christopher McQuarrie was there as well, the guy who's directing. It's like McQuarrie and Cruise just go around together. It's like McQuarrie's his handler. They were together at the Taylor Swift concert. It's like, all right, Tom, we can let you out in public, but McQuarrie's got to come with you. It's so funny.
That's a really weird relationship, I reckon.
It's so funny. And, it was great to see all these stars just like get behind Simone Biles, who's amazing and killed it. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, she had a lot of celebrity supporters. Like all the American celebrities are just watching gymnastics.
Yeah, she is very cool. Like obviously she's super famous now and everyone knows how amazing she is. But like to really come back from what was a pretty serious case of like what do they call it? The twisties. In Tokyo. Like, man, she came back and like fucking crushed it.
It's incredible watching. It's like, with so much of this stuff at the Olympics, right? It's like, how do you do that? But something about the gymnastics in particular is just, it's extraordinary to make your body do that. It's crazy. Mel, your favorite celeb moment?
Surely Snoop Dogg. I mean, he is the absolute hype person that I think we need at every Olympics. I think, like, obviously he's had lots of great moments dancing with Simone Biles, kind of hanging out at the tennis with Billie Jean King. He was mock fencing, wearing an American flag mask. But definitely the highlight was the equestrian outfit. Did you see him and Martha Stewart?
Yeah.
And then he, like,
him and Martha Stewart got all fancy.
Yeah, wearing these little... And then he even was like, he brought a carrot to feed the horse. And he said, like, he was quoted saying, "I'm interested in the horses that dance and I want to give them some carrots and apples." Great man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's funny. He's over there as like a special correspondent for NBC. He kind of did it a little bit at the last one, him and Kevin Hart. But like, I was trying to think, because he's been so popular, and the NBC president, he's over there in Paris and was like, we're definitely obviously going to like run this back in LA, a no-brainer. Like, that's Snoop's hometown. But I'm like, who could have been our special correspondent for 9? We didn't send anyone fun.
Scotty Cam.
It's very good. But like, you know what I mean? Why don't we have someone over there, like a beloved cultural
like
figure?
a fun pop cultural sort of
Like,
a
who
person.
would
We got
be our
Mark.
Snoop?
We got Tubby Taylor doing the diving, which maybe people thought was that equivalent. Maybe for a certain kind of man of a certain age, it is. But who is the fun? Why Lime Cordial? Why aren't they over there commentating?
I'm not really sure who it could be.
Do you think Snoop Dogg, because don't we not allow him into our country? Like, will he be able to come for Brisbane?
I think we have previously banned him, but I think he's allowed
he's
in.
good to
these
go,
days.
yeah.
Yeah, who would we send? If we're talking about famous actors or... I mean, like, Sarah Snook's been in London doing Dorian. Like, it'd be fun to cross to her if she was in Paris. People love her.
No, you need someone that's like Snoop is good because everyone loves him, but he's kind of ridiculous. Him specifically being at the Olympics is a bit ridiculous, and that's what makes
that's a
it
bit
all
silly.
work. So you need someone that's kind of like universally loved, but also their presence is kind of like jarring enough. Like, remember that chef Huey?
Oh, yeah. He's got a YouTube
That
channel.
would be good.
Yeah, send Huey to the Olympics.
Yeah, send
That's
Huey
good.
to LA. Let's get him chatting to people, doing a cook-up.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of got the right...
Or in fact, just on this, I can think of a number of, like, send Poe,
Yeah. Poe would be good, actually.
Poe would be
Julie
great.
Goodwin could probably do it.
Yeah, or maybe like
Yeah.
a classic from Home and Away, Irene or someone like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ray Mart, I don't know if he's going to make LA, to be
Wrong
honest.
network, folks. Wrong network. Let's just go through Nine's properties and see who works. We should have declared, in fact, we can declare it now, that Nine is the broadcast partner of the Olympics. It also owns Stan, and it also owns us. This is not a sponsored segment. We just love talking about the Olympics, but we should just mention that all the things we've been talking about, we're on Channel 9. The last category we've got, funniest moments. A lot to pick from in a very funny very funny game so far. There's one, I don't know what you're going to choose, Thomas. I hope you're going to choose this one. If you don't, I'm going to have to give it an honourable mention, but what is your funniest moment of the game so far?
Are you talking about the BDE, the pole vaulting?
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. Anthony Ammirati. I mean, he's the game's biggest loser, isn't he? I guess. Look, this is a story that seems designed for the internet. He obviously was looking to... I think he was jumping to qualify for the final, French pole vaulter, and he went and did his jump. He ascended as the plan was. He cleared, the top half of his body cleared the pole, but sadly his personal pole did not. And in slow motion for the entire world to see on repeat, he knocked the pole down with his enormous bulge. It's been like a pretty fucking funny story. Our colleagues over at Pedestrian have gone to town on it. It's like, they've probably written about 30 stories on it.
Wow.
There's lots of I think he's been offered $250,000 from OnlyFans to get his giant baguette out. That's a quote, by the way, not me saying it.
Oh my God.
Look, it's been a very funny story, and it's just the kind of Olympic moment that dreams are made of.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him not qualifying, but also, he would have had a great time at the Village that night. It's like, hey, Anthony, did you medal? Did you get into the finals? And he's like, no, but do you want to know why? Do you want to see why? Like, he's got an obvious sort of setup there.
I actually think this has set him up well for the future. Like, he's probably going to do better now post-Olympics than he would have,
Yeah, if he just remembers to wear underwear, he should do very well.
No, but he probably wasn't going to win.
No.
So, you may as well,
Yeah, you may as well emerge, as a character out of this.
Exactly.
Yeah. And speaking of characters who've emerged, Mel.
Oh, Mr. Pommel Halls.
Yes, Steven Nedorossi.
Yes, the 25-year-old American gymnast who has a very unique talent, the Pommel Halls. A lot of the other gymnasts compete in all kinds of different things, the bars and the floor and whatnot, but he is just the pommel horse. And there was this amazing footage of him just having a little nap because he had to wait hours before his event. And then also he kind of took his glasses off the moment before he got on the pommel horse, took his glasses off. It was kind of a Clark Kent moment. He just seems fun. He won 2 bronzes. He likes doing Rubik's cubes.
Yeah, I saw him do the Rubik's Cube in between waiting for his thing. That was good. He's pretty good at it. He was like, oh no, I screwed it up. And he did it. He still did it in 13 seconds.
Yeah. So
and he's
fast.
he's naturally cross-eyed and stuff. He's got that relatable energy that we look for in the Olympics. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, how good are the Olympics, seriously? Just thinking about
so good.
These weird characters, it's the best. It's the best. And the whole world, we talk about this with television, right? We've talked about this so many times. What are we all watching together? What are we talking about? What are we sharing memes about? What are we messaging each other about? What are we talking about at work, at the water cooler, in the coffee line, with random people on the tram? Nothing. But then the Olympics comes around every 4 years, and we are all talking about pommel horse guy, pole vault Dick guy, Tom Cruise and Snoop Dogg. It's so good. It feels like for the first time in so long, we're all in this together as human beings on this small, fragile planet. It's quite special.
It is special. And that's why I find it so weird. Last night, I texted a friend of mine, also second generation Greek, and I was like, you watching the Greek basketball? And he was like, nah, I'm not watching the Olympics. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? I've already got some question marks about this friend of mine. He's got weird viewing habits.
Your friends are the worst, dude.
I know. But I was like, so you... And then I had to double down. So I was like, so have you been putting the Olympics on in the background? He's like, not really. I was like, oh, but why? And he's like, I don't know. Just I was like, do you have Stan? He's like, yeah, I got Stan. But it's just no interest. And I'm like, but then that's why I was like, are there people out there who really aren't watching the Olympics? Because I feel like in my life and my echo chamber, most people are watching it.
Well, the emails we get from Channel 9 every day are like, 400 million Australians have tuned in last night. So I think a lot of people are. I don't think we're the weird ones here.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are watching.
Okay,
the
good.
Olympics.
Long live the Olympics.
My funny moment, this is from really early on, and I think it's faded from a lot of people's minds. I think it was like just pre the game starting. Canada was busted, their women's soccer team, using drones to spy on New Zealand, who they were up against in the group stages. And they were docked like 6 points. So they were basically out of the competition straight away. And I'm like, that's such a crazy thing to do. How do you think you're going to get away with it?
And also, how shit is your team if you need to spy on New Zealand? Like, New Zealand are not good.
New Zealand weren't favourites at all for that one. And it was really funny because the New Zealand team spotted like one drone, and then when the Canadians apologised, their statement was like, we're sorry for all the drones that we've used to spy on you.
Like, what? How many?
Multiple drones. All right, to round out our Olympics convo, I want to ask, there's a few days to go before the closing ceremony. Anything you guys have your eyes on? Anything you're particularly excited to see in the time we've got left to enjoy this special moment?
I'm looking forward to the marathon. I quite like sporting events that you can just put on for hours. And the commentary is kind of lulls you through it, and there are highs and lows. So I'm really looking forward to the marathon. Also, the basketball. I've just been loving watching the US team. Like, what an incredible team. KD, Steph, LeBron, AD. I've every time I watch it, it's so fun.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's got big, like, year 12 kids versus year 7 kids energy, where the year 12 kids are just fucking like,
yeah, it's Space Jam in real life.
Yeah, it basically is.
Monstars.
It's been very rumoured that the great Tom Cruise will appear in the closing ceremony. So I feel like that's really, like, in the back of my mind. I'm like, well, now I have to fucking stay up and watch it and see what he does. Like, what
he's going to jump off the Eiffel Tower.
100%.
It's going to be amazing.
He's going to like, there's going to be anthrax at the bottom of the Eiffel Tower or something. He's going to have to jump off the top of it and, like, snort it all up and spit it into Snoop Dogg's mouth, who will, like, then dive under the sand and then it'll explode or whatever. But yeah, I'm keen to see what they do. Obviously, the opening ceremony was, like, very controversial and divisive. But yeah, I'm keen to see how they and maybe Snoop will be involved, given they are handing it over to LA.
Yeah, well, that's the rumor with the Tom Cruise thing, right? They always do this thing at the closing ceremony where they sort of pass the baton on, and Tom Cruise could be that bridge between Paris and LA. He could jump out of something in France, like the Eiffel Tower, and land in LA. That could be really cool. And I think if he does, I mean, the whole world is watching this. It's going to make the next Mission Impossible movie like the biggest film of all time if Tom Cruise becomes this like Olympic hero as well.
But that should be that we should start doing more tie-ins like that. So then the next Mission Impossible movie is set like during the Olympics in LA, because obviously this whole Olympics was just like a marketing ploy for Emily in Paris, which starts next week.
It does start like 3 days after.
There was not enough Lily Collins. Like, I don't think they took enough advantage of her in this. Like, she should have been courtside at everything wearing the ridiculous Emily outfits.
I think it's because people know that she's like, it's not very cool. That's my impression.
I think also, so like Ariana Grande has been doing a lot of stuff. I think that's because Universal's got Wicked coming out, and Universal has NBC, which is the broadcast partner. Netflix is a bit on the outs, I guess, as not a streaming partner. My thing I'm excited about, so Ashad Nadeem, Pakistani javelin thrower, he qualified this week to make it into the finals. He qualified third. He won gold for Pakistan at the Commonwealth Games a couple of years ago. It was Pakistan's first gold since 1962, I think. This is Pakistan's only chance to like medal left at these games. I'm really excited about this. He's in the finals for the javelin, 4:30 a.m. on Friday. I will get up. It'll be very exciting if he gets something. You know, the little country that could.
That's that's exciting. Have they got any medals at all yet?
No.
So they're below both the Fox sisters on the medal.
Yeah. And look, the last thing I thought we could do is just go through all 32 Olympic sports and rank them.
Yeah, perfect.
You ready to go?
Okay, good.
Mel's face is
so breaking one, obviously.
No, I think we can leave our Olympic convo there.
Yeah, very good. Long live the Olympics.
All right, so after a slow start to the year that had some parts of Hollywood kind of losing their minds that movies were over, no one wanted to see them, movies are actually back, team. In the past few weeks, there have been some big releases. Turns out the biggest film of the year is surprisingly Inside Out 2. It's made $1.5 billion US so far. That actually makes it the 10th highest grossing movie in history, like of all time. That's wild. But we're not going to talk about Inside Out 2. We're going to talk about two other big blockbuster films that have come out in the last month. Twisters and the latest installment from Marvel, Deadpool and Wolverine. Let's start with Twisters because the Deadpool convo may result in me having an aneurysm and being unable to complete the podcast. So this is a remake of the 1996 disaster movie starring Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. The new one stars man of the moment Glen Powell, Daisy Edgar Jones, and Anthony Ramos. It's directed by Lee Isaac Chung, his big budget follow-up to 2020's Minari, which got a couple of Oscar nominations. The story follows clashing groups of storm chasers who are investigating a tornado outbreak in Oklahoma. You've got Daisy Edgar Jones and Anthony Ramos as the kind of more scientific, methodical storm chasers. Glen Powell is this cowboy YouTube streamer who's kind of clashing with their approach. There's also a subplot in there about dodgy real estate agent who buys up land and takes advantage of the good working class folk of Oklahoma, my kind of salt of the earth people, Melanie, who are being impacted by these tornadoes. But basically, this is a big, dumb disaster film, big budget, lots of fancy tornado effects, lots of mayhem and destruction, and some funny stuff as well. I got to say, I had a good time with Twisters. This is a really fun in-cinema experience. I thought the action was pretty thrilling. There was a lot of tension. The opening sequence does a really good job of setting up the stakes and making you feel that stuff matters in this otherwise kind of silly film. There's some good performances. I'm keen to talk about how you are feeling about Glen Powell at the moment, Thomas. And there's a bit of heart to the film as well. And it had a really fun, I don't want to give too much away, but the climactic scene is in a cinema theater, which is really cool to be in a theater and kind of watch that experience happen. It was really fun. What more do you want from a movie? I don't think much. What did you guys think about Twisters?
Look, I'm sorry.
Oh no.
We get it. You really like Glen Powell, bro.
It was just a bit too much weather for me, really. There were a bit too much leaves and dust and wind and chat about the weather, which famously I don't love doing. I think to me this felt was this made in 1994? There was something very nostalgic about this, which maybe
I agree with that. I think that's what made it good
for you, but for me, it was kind of I thought it was quite boring. Really, was how I would describe it. Quite boring, and I thought the casting was a bit odd, and mainly I was devastated that Lee Isaac Chung, who did Minari, which was this beautiful family farm drama, has done this. It seemed like a weird, it didn't quite seem like he was able.
I mean, this
to
is also a
use
family farm drama. There's a family farm that is key to the story.
That's true. Look, is it a good time? Sure, I'd watch it when it hits a streamer and you're at home with nothing else to watch and the Olympics is over. But I don't know. I just found it quite boring and predictable, and just it hit all the kind of tropes of a disaster show, and I don't think it did anything that particularly new and interesting. So I'm sorry.
I respect your opinion on all things, Mel, and I respect your opinion on this as well. But I think sometimes you've just got to evaluate something for what it is and what it's trying to do, right? Like you saying a bit too much weather about a movie called Twisters, I feel like is an unfair criticism to make.
Yeah, that's probably fair. And
I think what that suggests is the heavy-handedness of the show. That's what that criticism.
The movie called Twisters,
you have to,
about Twisters.
Yeah, it was heavy-handed that a storm was brewing.
Look, I like Jurassic Park. There's a lot of fucking dinosaurs in that movie.
Yeah, we know they're there. You don't have to tell us repeatedly that, a storm is brewing.
I mean, look, I, as you know, love talking about the weather.
You do.
Whenever there's I've got a bit of the Daisy Edgar Jones about me in that I can sniff rain a mile away.
Oh, wow.
I really I enjoyed this. I think maybe if I'm translating Mel's insane take on the film, it's getting very good reviews. And I think maybe the reviews are overselling really what it is. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was groundbreaking. To me, it had a lot of and I even think this is the case with Chung and especially Daisy Edgar Jones. I'm have these guys signed some 3-picture deals with a big studio? And this is they're both ticking off maybe the last one before they can go and do something they want to do. I think it was a fun time. I mean, Luke Combs wrote a song, "Ain't No Love in Oklahoma." This hits all the spots I needed it to hit, and I had a really fun time. And I actually thought Anthony Ramos stole the film.
Well, yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, Daisy Edgar Jones, I don't dislike her, but she has she's one-note performer a lot of the time in these kind of big budget things, and she was not that great in this film.
She was not right for this film. Her acting style is so pared
Should have been
back.
Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just worth chatting. We can revisit that. But you say she's one note. I'm sorry, Glen Powell. Firstly, he's basically just morphing into Matthew McConaughey, like in front of our eyes.
Look. Let's do the Glen Powell thing because
I've been edging.
I like whooped in the cinema when he came out, was wearing the cowboy hat. I like Glen Powell. You guys know that I like Glen Powell. I think he's quite charming, quite fun, is good for these kinds of movies that are not taking themselves that seriously, and he can have chemistry with a whole bunch of different people. But I will say he is the same character in like the last 5 things we've seen him in. I think Hitman sort of pushed it a little bit, but this Glen Powell could have been the guy from Anyone But You, right? It could have been the guy from Top Gun Maverick. And I don't mind it, but I would love to see him push himself a little bit in something.
Yeah, I thought he was probably the best part about the film in terms of the others. Yeah, particularly compared to Daisy. I thought he was very charismatic and funny, had that kind of movie star thing that he was leaning into. I liked him in this. I agree with you that,
he's just like, it's been a lot of Glen Powell. All these things have come out in like 12 months kind of. It's been like Hitman, Anyone But You, and now this. And they're all like been kind of big talk.
Less than 12 months, yeah. Anyone But You was December last year.
Yeah, so that's a lot of Glen Powell in a short amount of time.
Well, this is the thing. People love it. Like, this movie is doing quite well. Interestingly, it's doing very well in America and not that well elsewhere. I'm interested to get your thoughts on that. Like, it is a very American movie, I guess, like country music and Oklahoma and a lot of chat about Oklahoma. I find it weird that it hasn't had a big marketing push elsewhere because Thomas, you and I enjoyed the movie. It's not like I need to have first-hand experience of tornadoes to understand that this movie is fun.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it is very American. A colleague of ours said before the podcast that it was part of the rise in conservative filmmaking, which is why Osman loved it so much.
Yeah, I do kind of agree with that.
Do you think so? Okay, I've got a totally different read, but tell me why you think that, Mel.
Well, I think it is a regionally specific, which I don't think necessarily makes it conservative filmmaking, but just the whole shtick of it felt to me, and I guess that's what I'm saying when I think it felt like a throwback. There's a bit of a
Northmen. What is it?
Rich Men North of
Richmond. There's a bit of Rich Men North of Richmond about it.
Vibe to it. And I know other critics are saying that the failure to mention climate change was odd. I mean, I don't think it needed to be spelled out, but it was that kind of, there was just that kind of nostalgic vibe of it that really kind of made me see it as a conservative film.
That's interesting. I think there is an element of truth to that. I think it was probably a deliberate decision to not use the words climate change, to not make this a culture war object, and just make this film make heaps of money in the Midwest, right? Like, I think they probably deliberately had that conversation. But at the same time, I do think it's interesting that the main villain of this movie is a Southern, corrupt politician, real estate agent who pretends to be on the side of working people, but is actually swindling them to enrich himself. It's a kind of Trumpian sort of a character there. I think it sort of fits into this idea of like, well, is it on the side of like working class white Americans, which is like what Oklahoma is? Yes. Does that automatically make it conservative? Like, should progressives just cede the entire ground of storytelling about white people in rural towns to the conservatives? I don't think something that is about farms and about that part of America needs to automatically be dubbed conservative. That's kind of my
No, I think that's fair.
I think that's true. And I'm also, I guess, speaking conservative stylistically as well.
I do think, though, that at the same time, you've got the, like, attached to the villain is the kind of like classic think tank scientists, like with Anthony Ramos and their project, whereas the hero of the movie is like swashbuckling tornado wrangler Glen Powell. Cowboy hat, like kicks the door down of the tornado and steps right into that motherfucker. But like, that he kind of appeals to a certain, again, I don't think you can like.
It's a good point. It is a very like, the elites are the bad guys, these fancy people with their startup funding and they went to their universities versus the like, YouTube guys. We're here to take down mainstream media.
And like that whole, exactly. Like there's even a conversation where it's like, what degrees do you guys have? And like, they're like, we don't have none, but we just fucking love having fun. And like, it's all, so there was like that divide was like an undercurrent in the film.
But also the Glen Powell crew was like the most diverse crew of them all as well.
That's true.
There's layers to this movie, And I do feel like, we're joking about the Minari thing. I do feel like, look, this is the big budget movie that Lee Isaac Chung came in to, I think, quite late on after another director kind of that they had to bow out. there is a whole like family drama on a farm in the middle of America plot, which I feel like he has some of his fingerprints on, which is a little bit of a nod to Minari.
That's true. But will you ever think about this film again or watch it again? Like, to me, it just felt like
I might watch it again. I don't think I'll think about it, but I don't think the film wants you to think about it again.
No.
I think the film is there, like, have a really fun time. If you can't watch it in a cinema, watch it on a big screen with good sound, and you'll kind of be a bit thrilled. And I think the film does know it is kind of silly. Like, the ending of the movie in particular is so, like, just, like, absurd. And it almost feels like a blooper reel, really, of the movie. And I like that too.
Yeah, you're right. That part does kind of save it a bit, because otherwise I would say it should be more silly. Like, it needed to be funnier and sillier and more self-aware.
There is such a thing as being too self-aware and too silly.
Oh, that means it's time for the big one. In just a few weeks, this film has become the highest grossing R-rated movie in history, surpassing Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ, believe it or not. It is, of course, Deadpool and Wolverine, starring Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. It's the third Deadpool film, but it's the first one since Disney bought 20th Century Fox in 2019, a corporate merger that occupies a weird amount of time in this actual film. I'm kind of torn on how to talk about it. I think the fact that it's like very popular means that we should just talk about it as a movie first, evaluate it on its own terms, and then we can discuss how it fits into the broader cinematic landscape, the Marvel Universe, and the future direction of human society. Mel, you watched this movie, but you also told us that you've never seen any other Deadpool films or any X-Men films or any Marvel films?
It felt like I wasn't sure whether I should make that confession, but it also felt essential to my viewing experience. Look, I think I really ride for Batman. I mean, I have seen Spider-Man, Kirsten Dunst, Tobey Maguire.
Okay, so none of those. Oh, so Spider-Man is a Marvel movie? Batman is not
obviously
a Marvel.
DC.
Okay,
but yeah,
gotcha.
I think Spider-Man is probably the biggest engagement I've had with Marvel. But X-Men...
And that was the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, which is not a Marvel production, in fact.
Well, there you go. So
It was a Sony production.
I was coming into this very cold.
Okay, great. No, I think I'm not making fun of you. I think that makes you a normal person, unlike
You do
widows
love
like Thomas
Marvel.
and I. And it's just good to lay out, our respective levels of engagement and connectedness to this world. Mel, could you explain the plot of this movie for us?
I can. Now, I have written, when I watched it, I went into it cold, right? Like, I didn't Google who is Deadpool or like anything. I didn't read any reviews because I wanted to have the full experience. And this is kind
I'm
of
so excited.
I took away was a wisecracking man in a suit that hides a skin condition and I think can time travel and wants to join the Avengers. But Tom Wambsgans from Succession, that was great, tells him that he has to destroy the universe because Wolverine has died and for some reason the world can't continue without him. I don't know why. Then he steals some kind of device and he goes to resurrect Wolverine, and then there was just a time pad, a void, an Aeolith, an ice pool, dog pool, juggernaut, pyro. That's how... That's really... Look, I didn't really know what was going on. And to be honest, I'm not that sad I didn't see the other Deadpools. Did I do well? Was that good?
Incredible summation of the
Yeah,
plot.
if you had
I wrote
Letterboxd-
I wrote my own notes to help explain, but they're basically word for word what you just said. That's basically the plot of Deadpool. Before we talk about it more, your take on the movie, Mel, as someone who came in cold, yay or nay?
Probably yay. There were too
Probably
many.
yay.
Oh, nay. Sorry, nay. Yeah. Top note takeaway. Too many one-liners. Just take a break. And just like too many dick jokes. Why were there so many dick jokes all the time, constantly?
Well, Deadpool is like in the comics meant to be almost like he always flirts with like what his sexuality is and stuff, and they kind of explore that in the other films. He's basically meant to be like juvenile and stuff. But I loved the first Deadpool movie. Was happy with the second one. This I just had such a bad time. Like I thought it was Ryan Reynolds. Talk about one-note actors. Ryan Reynolds just doing Ryan Reynolds, but it was too much. And then Hugh Jackman, who's like Logan. I think we can all agree. When I say all, I of course mean Osman and I because you haven't seen it. One of the great comic book films.
Yeah, James Mangold tackling this character at the end of his kind of natural life, a meditation on dying and death and legacy. Really, really beautiful film.
And they kind of pick up threads of that in Deadpool versus Wolverine, and in a way that is to its own detriment because it feels like Hugh Jackman is acting in his own movie.
Yeah, he's in a different movie, man.
It is crazy. And then just all of the, Tom Wamsgams, Matthew McFadden basically playing Tom Wamsgams. I don't know. It was all
what a waste. What a waste of him.
I know. It was all very confusing. There are a few, you really have to have your Marvel lore down pat for this in order to fully appreciate all the gags. I don't know, Osman. Obviously, as someone who lives and breathes Marvel, but seriously, you would have had a context for every joke pretty much. Did it annoy you?
Let's talk about that. Just to quickly do the plot in a way I think that helps people understand it, but also explains how ludicrous this plot is. So Deadpool is living a boring life after interviewing and failing to make it as an Avenger, as you put, Mel. He gets kidnapped by the Time Variance Authority, which is led by Matthew McFadden from Succession, and he's told he can become an Avenger, but he has to watch his universe and all the people he loves die. So he decides instead to team up with Wolverine from a different universe and wreak some havoc, but instead he gets sent to this place called the Void, which is ruled over by Cassandra Nova, who is Professor X's twin sister, played by Emma Corrin. In the Void, he meets all these leftover superheroes from 20th Century Fox films before the Marvel Cinematic Universe exists. There's lots of fights, lots of jokes, and he tries to battle his way out of the Void. I think even from that summary, you can sort of get a sense that if you are not just across Marvel, but you're across the movies that came before Marvel, the Jennifer Garner Elektra film, the Wesley Snipes Blade film, the fact that Chris Evans, before he was Captain America, was the Human Torch in the 2005 Fantastic Four film. If you know the comic book lore that Professor X had a twin sister who tried to strangle him in utero, you have to really know a lot of stuff for a lot of these gags to land. And then if you are not one of those people, you have to just love Ryan Reynolds and you have to love his shtick and his kind of witticisms for this movie to work. Now, the weird thing is, none of us really enjoyed this movie. This movie's gotten pretty good reviews and has made a shit ton of money. And I'm fascinated as to what that audience is who's in the bag for this, because on one hand, like we just said, you need to have this knowledge, I think, that goes 25, in the case of Blade, nearly 30 years of film and comic book history. And the music choices, right, are these big nostalgia hits too. There's these big music set pieces, NSYNC, Bye Bye Bye, Madonna, Like a Prayer, all this stuff that scratches your brain if you're an elder millennial or a Gen Xer. But then the jokes and the style of the movie seem like they're designed for 17-year-old boys who presumably don't have that. There's just dick jokes, more dick jokes, and really cartoony action that doesn't look particularly good. Sean Levy, who directed this movie, is not a particularly great filmmaker. David Leitch, who's a pretty good filmmaker. He did the second one. The first Deadpool was pretty good. I can't understand who this movie is for. And I'm more flummoxed about the fact that it has been so successful, given that I don't understand who it's for.
But I think that the success, I reckon, has come down. This movie almost seems like it was made for the ensuing press trip, which has seen Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman go all over the world, except Australia, weirdly. But they did Asia, South America, obviously the States, Europe. They this whole. Even before this movie came out, we've known that they've got this kind of buddy cop thing going on where they're funny friends and Hugh's really serious and Ryan's really silly and Hugh's so handsome and blah, blah, blah. And it feels like the movie has come alive in the press tour almost, and the press tour has fed into a desire to people want to go and check it out. It was always going to do well, but it's done so well. I don't know. It just feels like it's hinging on the off-screen relationship of the two leads, which are two pretty universally loved famous actors.
Or do you think also that maybe people who love Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 are just going along because they were attached to the franchise when it was a lot more original, i.e. the first one, so that they're committed to it and will still go along?
I think those are both really good points. The first two Deadpool movies were very popular, right? So people will see the third one, plus people who just like the Marvel movies and remember Wolverine, who was in the X-Men movies that were really good, will want to see them. So there is a lot of just mining nostalgia. And I think, Thomas, that's also a really good point. I mean, Deadpool as a character in the comic books and in the movies is very meta. Like, he breaks the fourth wall a lot. So Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman having fun in real life sort of feels like they're doing it in the movie. And this movie, more than any of the others, is so meta. Like he talks about Hugh Jackman being in this movie a bunch. It references so many things in real life. I mean, one of the jokes I did laugh at, I think it was the only one I laughed at, is Reynolds making a Gossip Girl gag
that was
about
funny.
like
But also related to dicks.
Yeah.
yeah, it was also related to dicks. Yeah. He's married to Blake Lively. Who did you guys recognize her popping up in the film?
Well, only because I knew from the
Yeah.
press tour that she was in the
Right.
movie. Yeah. But then
Yeah,
there was a very funny joke about Hugh Jackman being divorced. Did you guys catch that
Yes,
one?
I enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
and also all the funny ones are the ones we love about like celeb goss. Jennifer Garner making a joke. You probably didn't get this one, Mel. So Elektra, who Jennifer Garner plays, is in like the same sort of universe as Daredevil, who was a character, and Ben Affleck played Daredevil.
Right.
Obviously, Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck were an item for a while, and so there's a gag where they're like, "Oh no, where's Daredevil?" And she's like, "Don't worry about him. You know, he doesn't need to be
Yeah,
around,"
that-
which was pretty good.
That was the part of it that I most liked, was like the meta commentary on Warner and Marvel, even if I didn't get the kind of lore of some of the Marvel details. But the commentary on the Hollywood industry and superhero franchises, that was definitely the best part. But yes, there was not enough of that to sustain it for me.
Yeah, and I wondered, like, there's people who love this movie. There's people I know and who I like, and I trust their opinions, who really like this movie. One of the things that left me feeling like quite bitter about it was the joke is kind of on fans of these movies in a way. It's like, well, they're making jokes about how Marvel is at a low point. They're mining so much nostalgia, and they're making so much fun of, Thomas, you said Logan was one of the best superhero movies ever. I totally agree. They kind of destroy its legacy in a way. Like, they literally talk about that movie and that character so much. And even the return of Hugh Jackman after that movie gave him such a poignant and beautiful send-off suggests that none of this stuff really matters. So it's like, hey guys, come and pay money and watch these stories that are supposed to be about, have this kind of emotional core or some resonance to your life, but actually none of it matters, because anytime we want to make some more money, we'll bring back dead characters and we'll make fun of you for believing in that stuff in the first place. If people like it, like, good on them, but it does feel profoundly cynical. And I wonder how many times you can get away with getting the gang together, making heaps of fun about it, rinsing people for their hard-earned cash, and then walking away and patting yourself on the back. You can't do that too many times. And I wonder if, even though this is such a financial high point for Marvel, Disney bringing this all together, I wonder if, like, the next ones could struggle, because you just kind of can't rip your brand apart like this and mock it and expect people to keep turning up. But maybe I'm wrong. Like, Marvel fans are weird and they might keep turning up.
Do you think there's going to be more? Surely not. I thought maybe this was the farewell to Deadpool.
No, I mean, like, there's like another 5 Avengers movies like in the pipeline. There's a joke in this about, you know, how Hugh Jackman will keep doing this till he's 90. The fact that this has been so financially successful, if you're Disney, if you're a publicly listed company, your shareholders, your board is going to be like, you made $1.2 billion off that movie. What do you mean you're packing it up, right? And like Chris Evans as Captain America, he left. Like, okay, we're talking about Tony Stark, right? Like, left the Marvel universe. They wrapped all that up. Tony Stark is back in the next Marvel movie as a different character. Like, they're going to keep doing this stuff.
That seems crazy, that news.
It's
Like, come on,
crazy
man.
stuff. Yeah. I just feel a little bit sad that it's great that movies are back. It's great that people are watching stuff. There's bits of this movie that are kind of funny and kind of interesting. The points you made, Mel, about the meta commentary in Hollywood. But the future of cinema can't just be the same 10 characters that were big in the early 2010s being like dragged out of their literal graves in the case of Wolverine and made to dance for us on stage. I feel quite upset about that, as you can tell.
Well, how are you feeling about the Joker later in the year?
Don't talk to me about that. I was so famously out on Joker 1. I have no hopes for Joker 2. But I think at least that's something different. Like, it's an attempt to tell a slightly different story using the vehicle of like that IP property. I don't feel as anxious about that. I feel anxious about that for different like political reasons. And you know, the rise of the incel and where we're all going. But I don't feel as grim as I do about Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I mean, I think that's why Batman, I've always enjoyed Batman because he doesn't actually have any superpowers, right? He's got a lot of tech knowledge.
He's rich.
Yeah, he's rich. I guess that is a superpower. But yes, the less these shows have to do with superheroes and superpowers, the more I tend to like them.
Do you have any desire, Mel, after this one to watch any future either Deadpool or Wolverine or Marvel projects?
No, absolutely not. I'm well off Ryan Reynolds, even though he saved that football team. Hugh Jackman, I've always been kind of out on. So, no. You're
not a Hugh fan.
This has actually been quite reaffirming for me. Like, I was worried when I watched it that maybe my cultural history was limited and that I was out of touch with people who love these movies. But now I feel with the common man. But now I just feel like I'm.
You mentioned Juggernaut before. Like, did you have any history with him? Would you watch a standalone Juggernaut film?
Yeah, I mean, I'd give that a go in the right circumstances.
Oh, that's big of you. Good on you for being up for it.
I'm open to these things.
How about you, Thomas? I feel like you're like a little bit more plugged into Marvel stuff. Are you at all excited about the future of what is literally the biggest cinema project in the history of humanity?
If we get a Gambit movie starring Channing Tatum, because
we didn't talk about Channing. That was funny.
That was very funny. And I don't know if you have the context, but that was basically a character that he worked on for a long time, and they nearly got a film going, and then it fell over.
I figured, yeah.
And I thought he kind of stole the movie a bit there. That was a very funny scene.
But okay, so don't you think? So I think he's very funny. I thought he was very funny in this, but even that. So Gambit is this guy from South Louisiana, and he's got that kind of like New Orleans accent, really hammed up. And Channing Tatum is like taking the piss out of it. Basically, it's like again. Man, if you care about these characters, if you're trying to make this for people who care about stuff, you're kind of making a joke of it. Like nothing's left that is sincere. I feel so weird. I'm getting so passionate about what they're doing to characters like Gambit, but I enjoyed Channing Tatum in the movie. But then again, I think about what statement they're making about how much they actually care about this stuff, and I get a bit sad again.
Yeah. What's the give us the temp check on the Marvel heads on Reddit? Like, are people pretty upset?
No, people love this. People think that after the last few Marvel movies, like the Marvels, that were just not good and kind of confused, that this was relatively tight. Like, I think the story is obviously ludicrous. Like, it kind of doesn't really make any sense. But in terms of just like, we're getting some funny characters together to have a fun time, and we're going to make a bunch of in-jokes for you nerds to laugh at. People love that. My sort of cynicism and depressed nature around it, I think, just comes from a more broader place of like where cinema is going and the cynicism of studios like Disney making jokes about corporate mergers and whatever. That's where it comes from. Marvel heads really like this, and I think it's probably breathed a bit of life into the franchise. I think this movie doing well, reminding people that superhero movies can kind of be fun. The Robert Downey Jr. stuff, people are excited about the future of Marvel. So unfortunately, we're probably going to have to talk about it more over ensuing months and years.
But before we wrap up, can you tell me why his face looks like that?
He got into an accident.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like acid burns or something.
Burns, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave that there, hopefully, for
Ever.
a long time. Before we finish up, we've got our regular Impress Your Friends segment, where we share something that we watched, read, listened to, or consumed in the world of pop culture. I'm going to go first. Quick little film shout out from me. This is a movie called How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. It is a Thai family drama directed by debut filmmaker Pat Bunatpat, and it's doing gangbusters in Thailand. It's a big blockbuster hit there and across Southeast Asia. The movie is about a uni dropout who offers to take care of his terminally ill grandmother, but then his family realize he's only doing it so he can swindle her inheritance. It's great. It's kind of darkly funny, also very sad and tragic at moments, but very heartwarming. It's an ode to grandparents, right? We love grandparents. They're very important. They play a great role in our lives. The grandmother in this film is played by Usha Siumkum. She's 78 years old. It's her first ever film, and she is just astonishing. It's in cinemas now. I don't know if this will be like a best foreign, best non-English Oscar film, but it could be. Like, it's getting quite a bit of critical acclaim. It's a really fun, heartwarming film. Could not recommend it.
I might go and watch this to cleanse my soul of
Yeah, I was gonna
Deadpool
say.
and Twisters.
Yeah. It's good to watch something like this after Deadpool because you're like, cinema. can be good.
Well, so, and I'll tell you my rec, but one thing I did, because you've been talking about it so much, and I obviously trust your taste very much, I went and started Industry, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about it when we get to season 3. But I thought it is so good, the first season, and I kind of went into this thing thinking about Lena Dunham and whether her connection to that project really harmed it at the time. But anyway, so I just want to say that I'm on board. I'm trying to catch up. So, have you watched it, Thomas?
I've watched the first season, but I want to get back into it. I feel like people are kind of really clinging on to Industry right now as the new show.
Yeah, it starts in a week, I think, and there's a lot of hype.
Yeah.
Kit Harington's in this. Season 2 is great. I'm really glad, Mel. Thanks for jumping on board.
Yeah, it's great. One of the best shows I've kind of seen in a while. My rec is, and this is kind of, I think there's a trend in literature of brat women at the moment. You kind of got All Fours, Miranda July, Night Bitch, Vladimir. These are kind of women who don't just accept motherhood, middle age, wifedom. They kind of are breaking out of boxes. And I think this one fits into that category. It's Woo Woo by Ella Baxter. She is a Melbourne writer. This is her second book. Her first book was called New Animal, and she was one of the best young Australian novelists of the year, the prize that the Herald gives out. This one is about an artist called Sabine in the lead up to her first solo exhibition at a gallery, and she kind of descends into chaos when she discovers that she's being stalked. She sees a man in her garden. He leaves her letters. He comes into her house. But she seeks to take revenge by almost pursuing the pursuer. And, it's kind of wild and wacky, but you're left questioning whether that's the only sane response to what she's going through. It's a really good read, and it's also based on the author's own experience of being stalked as well. So she wrote it while she was having that experience. So it's really kind of ripples with life. But I think a good new Australian read for the list.
Great. And before Thomas says it, I'm seeing a lot of people on Instagram sharing around. So
I've been trying to get it off your desk, but you refusing to give it to me. So I read New Animal and really liked it. That's a crazy story based on a real story of a guy running like an illegal zoo on his property. I will be definitely keen for that. My rec this week is a good one because I have impeccable taste and my finger on the pulse. It is a show that comes out today. It's on Binge, and I don't know if you guys are across this because it's like fucking both in your wheelhouse, Mr. Throwback.
Yeah, I am across this. I've not seen it, but I'm across it. I'm excited for it.
It's really good, man. So are you across this?
I'm across it, but not
Okay,
watched.
so Mr. Throwback is basically a mockumentary starring Steph Curry, not Stephen Curry, the Australian from The
You should
Castle.
know that I did ask for an interview, and they replied, and they said he's at the Olympics right now. And I'm like, I know, but after.
But yeah, basically Steph Curry plays himself and Adam Pally, who I don't know if you guys ever know. Did you ever watch Happy Endings? It was actually quite a good show. It was like basically like the mid-2010s answer to Friends. Anyway, Adam Pally plays this guy, Danny Grossman, and in the 6th grade, he and Steph Curry were best friends, and they were both really good at basketball. But Adam's character, Danny, was like the better one. And so he was on the path to superstardom in year 6, and then obviously his best friend is Steph Curry and becomes one of the greatest basketballers of all time. And then we cut to the future, and basically Danny is running a memorabilia store called Mr. Throwback, and it's in trouble financially, and so he reaches out to his one-time childhood best friend Steph to help him out. And on their first meeting, he steals his game day jersey, and the story kind of picks up from there as they reconnect and like involve in each other's lives. It's very funny. It's like got that mockumentary thing. Steph Curry is very like annoyingly funny as well as being so good at basketball.
Damn,
not fair.
Not fair.
He's wonderful.
But you're one of the best footballers in Australia, and you're also very funny. So.
That is actually, yeah. I mean, there's so few of us, and it's good to see another guy out there grinding. But yeah, I think you guys will really enjoy it, and that's on Binge. I think episode week by week, and it's out today.
Great, Rex. Look at that. A great film, a great book, a great TV show. What more do you want, really?
Yeah.
What
From
more do you
Australia's
want?
best 3x3 basketball.
Awesome conversation, team. Good luck. Enjoy the rest of the Olympics. I will see you next week.
Bye.
Ciao.
This episode of The Drop was produced by Chi Wong. If you enjoyed listening to today's episode of The Drop, make sure to follow us in your favorite podcast app, leave us a review, or better yet, share the episode with a friend. I'm Osman Faruqi. See you next week.